Hey everyone, Ryan here at Etrailer. Today on our 2020 Chevy Spark, we're going to be showing you how to install the Blue Ox base plate kit with removable arms. Before we do that though, let's take a minute, we'll check this out and make sure it's going to work for you. Before we jump right in, I do want to touch base on the main parts that you're going to need to flat tow your Spark down the road in the first place. And there's going to be a total of 5 of them. You'll have your base plate, your tow bar, your safety cables, your tow bar wiring, and your supplemental braking system. And since the Spark does require the battery to be disconnected when you're flat towing, I also like to recommend the Roadmaster automatic battery disconnect switch. This is what the front of your Spark can look like whenever you're not hooked up to your coach, which I think is important because you're not always going to be flat towing right. And as far as the appearance goes, don't really think it can get a whole lot better, to be honest with you. Everything kind of blends in pretty well to the lower part of our grill here, not too noticeable. I think the finish on the base plate matches the plastic on the bumper pretty close, and can't really ask for too much more. You know, everything's spaced apart evenly, easy to see and easy to get to. Whenever you are ready to use a base plate, you can pull out these little caps, which I think is a nice touch actually, just to help it look better and more importantly keep debris and stuff from getting inside of there and causing corrosion and stuff in the future. But you take the removable arms, push them into place, rotate them about a quarter turn, they'll lock into position. Same deal on the other side here, and now that's going to give us that attachment point we need to hook our tow bar up. You can take the tow bar in now, line it up with your base plate. Just put that pin and clip through there, and that's how you attach the tow bar ends. The base plate is going to work with the Blue Ox tow bars as well as some of the other manufacturers. And even, let's say, for example, if you have a Roadmaster tow bar, let's say, and you want to hold on to it, and you really want to use this base plate, you can still make them work. There's adapter ends available that you can change out and allow you to pair up different types of tow bars with the Blue Ox base plate. Just thought I'd throw that out there. And even the safety cable attachments, easy to get to, and the openings are going to be large enough to allow you to use pretty much any type of hook. This is what the front of your Spark can look like whenever you are hooked up and flat towing it down the road. And I like it. You know, everything is organized, spaced apart, which in turn will make it easy to see what's going on and get everything hooked up and disconnected. One of the things that you need to pay attention to, and this is going to hold true for pretty much all the base plates available for the Spark, is what type of submodel you have. So with this particular Blue Ox one, it's going to fit the LS and the Active models. If you have an LT, there's another one available designed to work with that. But speaking of other base plates, you know, to compare this one to some of the others out there, not going to lie, they're all extremely similar, both in looks, you know, how easy they're going to be to use. Even when it comes to the installation, they're all pretty similar. So if it were me, what would make me go with this base plate would really be what type of tow bar I want. You know, so for example, if you're a big fan of the Blue Ox tow bars or already have one, this would make the most sense. That way you don't have to bother with getting adapters or anything like that to have everything paired together. Other than that, at the end of the day, a base plate kit you really can't go wrong with. You know, Blue Ox makes good parts, and this one is no exception. As far as the installation goes, it's really not too bad, to be honest with you. You do have to remove the front fascia. It's pretty much standard with any base plate installation. But there's a couple small things that I've learned since I've been doing this for a while that I can hopefully relay to you and help speed up your installation process a little bit more. But if this is something you don't want to mess with, definitely understand that. You can always use our dealer locator network, and that can help you find a shop in your neighborhood that can do it for you. But if you're going to give it a go, hang around, we'll go ahead, pull into the garage, and get started on it now. To begin our installation, we'll be here at the front of our vehicle, and we're going to need to get our fascia removed. So on the driver's side, we're going to have 3 fasteners that we can remove. Same 3 on the passenger side, and from this point on, whatever we do to one side of our vehicle, we'll also do to the other side. It'll be set up the same way, but These two, we can use a 10mm socket. And then for this one, it's a push pin style fastener. You can use a trim tool like this, or even a flathead screwdriver will work. You just pry underneath the head of it, then you're able to work the whole base out. Underneath the front of our vehicle, on each side, we're gonna have 4 screws. We're gonna have a 7mm head. That one there. This one here. This one right here. And lastly, that one right there. Moving to your front wheel wells now, we have these 2 push pin fasteners. And we'll get those removed, just like the one we did under the hood. It definitely helps too if you turn your tire in, gives you a lot more room to work. And then you kind of pull back on your fascia, get a hold of the liner. And right up here in this area, we're gonna have a 7mm head screw that we can pull out. Grab our socket, get that done. What I've done, I put some painter's tape along the edge here where we're gonna be working so I don't scratch anything up on accident. We can start to pull our fascia off. So you just wanna grab the corner and just carefully kind of start to work it here. There's just some clips holding it on. And sometimes they want to get hung up. So once it gets popped off, you might be able to see a little bit better. But sometimes what you might need to do is take a pick or a small screwdriver or something. And just kind of push down on it to help it release. So that's where they were, and these little parts, that's what I was kind of pushing down on. So I was pushing down and pulling that out to get it released. And we'll just work our way around to the front of the vehicle. I'm about to here where the headlight's kind of halfway of the headlight. I'm going to do the same thing to the other side and kind of go from there. To get this completely removed, we'll just continue to work our way around here. And it does seem to get a little tight right here in this area. Right there. And so you might be able to see it. One thing you can do, I just sprayed soapy water in this area and it helps just kind of break some of that dirt and grime free, make it a little easier to get pulled off. So I got the other side done too. And looks like we're gonna have an electrical connection on each side. That one there. The way you can get these removed, there's a red tab. You can push back on it. Sometimes they're really tight, and if that's the case, you could take a screwdriver and just kind of carefully push back on it and then push down on the center of that tab. That'll release. I got the one on the other side unplugged too. And that should be it. So we can pull our fascia off and set it to the side. If you look right here where this little plastic air dam kind of sits on the top of our bumper beam, we'll have 2 push pins on each side. We'll have to remove. We can get our bumper beam removed. So on each side, you'll have 4 bolts. They have a 13mm head. Not a bad idea too. What I do, when I do one side, I remove them all, then I take one and put it back in hand tight. That way, just don't fall off once we get all these out. this in place. This one that I left hand tight, removed. And this should pull off. It looks like might actually have another push pin fastener down here. Put one of these back in, we'll get those popped out. Here's where that other push pin fastener is, and ideally, if I would have saw it, I'd probably do it before I remove the bolts, but no big deal. Pop that out. I got the other side out. I'll hold our bumper beam in place, remove this bolt I put back in to help me out there, and now it slides off the front of our vehicle. This plastic, there's a diagram and instructions where you can measure down from. This will have to get cut out to accommodate our base plate. On the driver's side, on our vehicle, we have some wiring attached to it. I'll just pop that free. And then when you're cutting this type of thing, you know, be careful what's going on behind it. You don't want to damage anything. I'm just going to use a multi-tool. Dremel tool would work, probably a pair of snips even. Just over here on the passenger side, this hole right here, it's a little bit smaller than this one. We're gonna have to enlarge it to 3/8. We'll get that done. Just be careful here. You don't want to damage, you know, hit this or anything along those lines. The way the base plate is gonna work, on the side, there's 3 holes. This one, that's gonna line up with the hole that we just drilled on the passenger side. The driver's side, it's already big enough. So we'll hold the base plate up, and then you can take one of these bolts, put on a split lock washer. We'll put that through on each side, through the base plate, through the frame, and that'll keep it in position and allow us to kind of get everything sorted and some of the other hardware started. So this is kind of a tight fit. You have to just sneak it up into position here. And we'll do what we talked about. What we're gonna attach to the back of that bolt is a handle nut, and all the hardware that we're gonna use to secure the base plate, we're gonna put on some red Loctite. You can put it on the threads on the nut or the bolt, don't really matter. So this is gonna get fed into the frame. So you kind of get that lined up with your bolt and get that started hand tight. Once you got both those started, you know, you're able to kind of move the base plate up and down. So you want to take a level and make sure it's in the correct position. So you want it level. We'll take a 9/16 and get both the bolts snug down. We want to torque this hardware down now. So I'm using a 9/16 socket, and you can find the torque spec and the instructions. We'll take a pair of snips now, and I'm just gonna cut the handle portion off, or sometimes you can get them to break off. These ones are on there pretty good, just so they're out of our way. We're able to use the base plate as a template now for these 2 attachment points. So I have a 3/8 drill bit. I'll go ahead and get those 2 holes drilled out. Once you got those 2 holes drilled, same exact hardware combination that we're going to use, handle nut, a bolt, split lock washer. I like to get the top one started first, just so It's not really in our way as much as when we go to do the bottom one. So with those hand tight, don't forget to use your red Loctite on those bolts too. We'll snug them down. Switch out to our torque wrench and get them completely tightened. What I've done now, the base plate's going to come with the safety cable and a little D-link. I took the cable, fold it in half, wrap it around the frame, and attach it to the base plate using the D-link. Do that on both sides, of course, and then something that I like to do is just take some zip ties and zip tie it up nice and tight. That way it's not going to clunk around or anything when you're driving down the road. And with that done, I then came back and took our bumper beam, reinstalled it the opposite way that I removed it. The kit also comes with this small bracket here, and this is for those of you that are hooking up a braking system that uses a breakaway switch. So if you wanted to mount this up, they give you some screws that you can drill into the bumper there. But with that said, now would be a great time to install some of your other flat towing components like your wiring, braking system, because with the front end apart, a lot easier to route wires and work on everything. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. Once I have that wrapped up, we'll come back, see if we need to modify our front fascia at all, and get everything put back together. I was able to get some of our other components installed, like our breakaway switch, and I got our diode or tow bar wiring ran here. Quick word of advice too, ideally you'd have the wires routed, but don't hook up your electrical connector just yet, because once the fascia's on and you had that connector in place, you probably have to cut a lot more material out or have to take it back apart and things like that. So I just have her wires ready, gave me extra length. That way we'll get her fascia on, and I can do what I need to do. Probably a little bit easier to get everything in place. So what I've done, I just took her fascia, roughly put it into place, and just used a couple of bolts at the top to hold it in position. And you can see where our components are interfering. So I'm just going to come in with a pair of snips and cut material out as needed until everything kind of drops into position where it needs to go. So I'll go ahead and do that and then show you what I come up with to get everything to fit. I was able to get our fascia completely reinstalled, all put back together, opposite way that we removed it, aside from our trimming, of course. And here's where I had to cut. Just some small openings around our base plate where it comes out. Like I said, you can cut, try to work it on, cut a little more. I had to take out a little bit on the bottom side of our safety chain opening there. Kind of this whole bottom area to clear our breakaway switch and where our electrical connector is going to go. And same deal over here on the driver's side. And that'll finish up our look at and our installation of the Blue Ox base plate kit with removable arms on our 2020 Chevrolet Spark.